In this video, I will show you what happens to the garden like this in 2 weeks without watering in summer heat. You will see which plants survived and which plants completely perished. And all of this with a layer of mulch that slows down evaporation of water. I had to travel and I want to show you what happened with my garden when I was not here and why. So as you see, I have about 15 square meters and it's under an oak tree. So my garden is partially covered by shade and partially you can still get some sun all the time. So first let's see the tomatoes, which I was very proud of. Some tomatoes that I already had, but they were green. They actually ripened. However, you can see that they are pretty much, the plants are pretty much dried, and there is also a lot of end rot. I do have a video, by the way, about end rot. You can see that there is some diseased Phytophthora plants, some that stopped absolutely growing and developing. So the conclusion here is that some tomato fruits would survive and ripen if you already have them, but the plants would be completely destroyed. Also, you see the difference between these plants and those which looks a little bit better in terms of the harvest. The difference is that the ones on the right I planted as seedlings, and on the left I planted as seeds. And this it grew itself, which means that it was growing in the best time for it. And you see that it's probably the greenest plant of them all, which means that when you plant your plants directly into the soil, they definitely have much better immune system and survival rate than other plants. Now, surprisingly, all my corn dried out in 2 weeks. I'm not sure why. I always thought that it's a little bit more resistant, but to be honest, this is area which is always in the sun, and they probably just dried out. And another problem might be that some of them were planted as seedlings. Now, green manure, which I planted here and looked beautiful, completely dried out and gone. Basil seems to be very resistant, and while it's kind of soft, I'm sure once I water it, it will give nice aromatic leaves again. Our strawberry plants are partially destroyed and partially still trying to survive. You see those three which get the most sun are completely dried out. If you look a little bit more, some of them, they're not definitely looking good. I don't think they will have good harvest next year, but they are still trying to survive. Now, mint. I have two types of mint, and actually very different conditions. This one seems to be surviving pretty well, despite there was no there was no watering. This was a plant which was planted here for several years already. Now this plant, which has more shade and supposed to survive better, actually dried very much, and only a little bit of mint left. And this is the plant which I planted this year, so I assume it was not able yet to root well. Jerusalem artichoke seems still surviving, but it's definitely in desperate need of water. I will water it and see how it survives. Rosemary. There is diseased raspberry, and they are pretty sad without water. So you can see that probably because there is no enough water, the resistance kind of fell and they became diseased. My rose bush is also doing pretty bad. Because of weak immunity and no water, it also became diseased and even burnt in the sun. As expected, cucumbers are the worst, completely dried and full of disease. No harvest whatsoever, no new small cucumbers, which means that they definitely need water very regularly and daily, something that we knew. Surprisingly, pepper is still there. 2 small pieces I have, they didn't develop much, but they are still alive. All the blooms which I had are gone, but you can see that new blooms are coming. So depending on how long the good weather will stay, I might still get some harvest, but I will need a couple of months for that. One carrot that I have is still surviving, but definitely not growing, but surviving. And as you see, my dahlia is quite good, considering the circumstances. And also another plant, which is an oleander, which was even planted in a pot, is surviving pretty well. It also was in a shade, but it's also a plant that usually grows in warmer climates and is drought resistant. So this weather seemed to be okay for the plant. As a conclusion, I guess if you want to grow any plants when you have to travel a lot, your best bet would be growing cacti.